So, thank you, each one of you, for joining in Friday evening. Some of you are joining in from Singapore on a layover, and probably other people from different countries or maybe very much in India. Thank you for that. And to just give you a little brief about what Advaita Katha is. So, Advaita Katha is the expression of the soul in the form of storytelling. Um, and storytelling itself has been an integral part of Indian culture for generations. And the aim of hosting Advait Katha is to re-establish the same tradition, the same culture, and the art of passing knowledge and wisdom through storytelling. And no matter what age, stage of life, or how much experience you have, it's always enjoyable to listen to stories, and it's a very relaxed form of learning. And that's what we would try to do. We'll try and get you guests who have had a journey either in our industry or different industries, and they have something to share in form of stories with each one of you. And today we start our first series is on aviation. So we'll have guests from aviation. Some would be pilots, some would be cabin crew, some would be air traffic controllers or aircraft engineers. So that's what the lineup would be in the aviation industry. And then we'll move on to a different sector. Today's guest is Amit Singh. He's had about 30 years of, probably more than 30 years of commercial aviation experience. He got his commercial pilot license at Indira Gandhi Rashtriya Udan Academy, joined Indian Airlines, Indigo, and then few other airlines where he also has held management positions. He has now got about 15,000 plus hours of flying under his belt. And and he holds very strong opinions about certain aspects of aviation. But we are not here today for that. We are here to hear about stories from Amit. And so, Amit, let's start off by you telling us and the guests and the listeners today why did we call our show today From Bullseye to the Sky?
Well, thank you for joining in. And we have a lot of very experienced people here.
Yes, we do.
Ball. Yeah. So rather than me sharing, they should be sharing.
The targets on you, Amit, today. Iqbal will have the opportunity to ask you some tricky questions later. So why bullseye to the sky?
So the bullseye comes from the fact that I was a target shooter before I started off flying. And in fact, the coach who taught me shooting, there was a movie made on him recently, a Hindi movie. So, and I happened to be the national number 2 silver medalist back in the 1980s, 87, when I was young and 16. Then aviation happened. I tried to juggle the two things together. And while I was in Indian Airlines, first 10, 12 years, I did shoot from Calcutta. I used to go to places like Durgapur, Coimbatore for national shooting championships. I won a couple of silver medals there. And then I decided to focus on target shooting because it needed some sort of stability in the programs. And that is when I decided to join Indigo, because they showed me that you have a roster stability. Then life takes you somewhere else.
Yes, it does. It does.
Their requirements were that they needed somebody to look after other issues. My priority was something else. I resisted. Then finally I had to give up. So from the bullseye, I went to the sky. So that's how the journey started. And the coach, in fact, was, if I look back, he was a very motivating person,
Hmm.
a very rustic person from a village in UP, ex-police person, but very motivated. He would catch anybody and make her or him a shooter. Even ladies, age of 70s, 80s, anybody.
So is that the Hindi
To
movie you're referring to? I think two elderly ladies, they learn how to shoot and
Yeah, yeah,
yes,
same.
yes.
That's my coach, Dr.
Wow.
Rajpal Singh.
Yeah.
So that's why this tagline is there, from bullseye to the sky, because there are a lot of commonalities in uh, aviation. And if you take medicine,
Mm.
for example, a lot of commonalities, like they work in a team. In surgery, you have a doctor, a specialist from anesthesia, or the person who's performing the surgery, post surgery. A lot of specialists working together. So, how does the hierarchy get handled, and what happens when egos get bruised? Who takes the final call? So, similarly, we have the situation in the cockpit, wherein we have people in the cockpit, we have the cabin crew behind, or we have the engineer on ground giving support or operations. So, how do we take a decision in a critical situation?
Yeah.
What all things do we consider? So, these are all common things in everyday life that you see, and you can learn from there. So, there is no one uh, space which is isolated. Everything is kind of connected. We have safety, for that matter, has the principles are the same everywhere,
Yeah.
be it oil and gas or nuclear or transport safety, aviation safety. Everything has a common thread.
Yeah. In
So we
fact,
need to catch that thread and look at the principles rather than focusing on these small things.
yeah. In fact, my next question to you is on similar lines as to what is the one lesson, you know, if it's easy for you to take out one lesson that your job or journey has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life, agnostic to industry, like you just said.
Yeah, aviation itself is not inherently dangerous, but it is more unforgiving to any carelessness or neglect or such deliberate errors. So, in other modes of transport or other areas, you may get away with a lot of things, but aviation is a lot more unforgiving in that manner. So, what I have learned is that you need to understand the basics. The foundation should be good, like we have the standard operating procedures, SOPs.
Yeah.
So if you understand where the SOPs come from, why were they developed, then you're more likely to follow them. And in case of an eventuality or an emergency, you will be able to take a decision whether this particular SOP, which was made with a particular requirement, still fits in the current situation or not, or do you blindly follow SOP? So that is one thing I've always started doing, get to the root cause or find out where this thing originated, the origin.
So you
So if
ask
we
why,
have,
asking why, is it?
yeah.
That's a
So the root cause, the simplest form of root cause analysis is ask a person why 5 times.
yeah.
If you ask why 5 times, then in the fifth why you will get the root cause. And if you know the origin of, like, even if you look at history or any other subject, if we know the origin, then we are in a better place to take or form an opinion or take a position.
Yeah.
And then if you want to deviate, we know how much are we deviating. So we have a base if you know the origin or the subject well. So that is one thing. Even all my blogs and all, whatever I write, uh, I try to get into the origin and then find out it could happen in a different way, or there could be another possibility. because the possibilities are numerous.
True.
So that we're thinking about all possible situations.
Yeah. So, if I was to say the statement, I wish I had known then what I know now, what comes to mind for you?
Well, uh, when we started flying, or rather, I can talk about myself. I used to look at the pushback, that aircraft, and used to wonder, how am I going to fly this machine? Then we saw the TB-20, that was even a bigger challenge. So somehow we did it. Then the King Air, we said, no, not possible. This is out of our league. And then the Boeing. So things keep coming in the way. And then there was a system. So there was a system which led us to the knowledge and skill that we acquired. But if you look from outside, everything seems unachievable. Like the story I told you about shooting and my coach. So he never thought that any person would be less than a gold medalist. So that is the effort he used to put in and his belief. So that is what I feel, that everybody has the potential. It is just that we don't venture, or we don't have the courage to dive into it. But if you're thrown into the sea, you will eventually learn to swim.
I mean, that's
So
one
that is
way.
what I've done most of
That's
the
one
time.
way that you get thrown into the sea. The other one is to
Yeah,
proactively
systematically
create a
learn, but
life that you
it
want.
is not that it is not that you cannot do something.
Mm.
Everything is possible. So
Yes.
now when I look back, I've done so many things which I myself felt that I would not be able to do. So now if I can rewind, I can do things much better if I have this belief. So I can go even higher with this, not to the space, but
In life.
self-satisfaction.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'll really take advantage of Iqbal being on the call, and he's, if I may say, senior to even Amit. Uh, Iqbal, what
Hmm.
comes to your mind? This is taking advantage. Okay, two guests for one. Um, you know, what does this does this statement mean anything to you? I wish I had known then what I know now.
If I had known then what I know now, could be in aviation, could be in life, could be
Yeah.
in so many more things, one would lead life much more differently then, not to reach the stage what one is at present.
Yeah.
And maybe, of course, be better personally, better professionally, better in all respects, because the knowledge which I've gained in so many years, all the ups, all the downs, that can be put to use at a much younger age. So it is not possible for any human being to know what to know after so many years. Right in the beginning, they wouldn't be knowing it.
Yeah.
So it would be the situation for all of us. When we are in our 20s or teens or 30s, we wouldn't have the knowledge which we would have when we're now in our 50s. So
Yeah. And that's probably the beauty of life, right?
yeah, so we all always can think that in hindsight I could have and I
Yeah.
should have done, but we get the knowledge only with time. We never get that dose when we are born. Otherwise, if we are 20 and have the knowledge which we would have had of somebody else at the age of 50, we will
Yeah.
we all start from scratch.
So
That's
that's
just how much we pick up in life.
yeah, and that's if I can just fit it in very cleverly here, that's what Advaita Katha is all about. That people out here can listen to what Amit and Iqbal and so many others would have to say, and probably, I mean, they don't listen to their parents, but maybe mentors and other seniors and experts from the industry they want to be a part of. So, Amit, the journey in aviation, 30 years, lots of things have changed, and lots of things are constantly changing at a very fast rate. Um, let's say 5 years or maybe even 10 years, it seems to be so far away now. Um, what do you think will be different? How will aviation be different? What would it look like?
Look, the whole aviation has changed from when we started, or 20 years before us. The biggest change was when the Airbus 320 or the fly-by-wire was introduced. That is how I see it, between the human and the machine. So that is called human-machine interface. Earlier, the human was the master. So we had a lot of confidence in our skills and knowledge, and that we are flying this machine, and this is our capability, and whatever is the capability of the aircraft. As time passed, the fly-by-wire was introduced. So we were told that you have to trust automation. You have to trust the aircraft. So anytime anything happens, put the automation on, reduce the workload. So that part was not clearly understood, I feel. So what really happened was that there was soon an over-reliance on automation, or we started doubting ourselves that if there is some failure, then maybe the automation will handle it better. But we did not understand what was going on actually, and is the automation doing the right thing or not. So now we are in a situation wherein automation has taken the lead. So what people generally say that you need to be taught about use of automation, which we know how to use automation, misuse of automation, which we could do misuse, then disuse and abuse of automation. So automation, if it is such a big thing, then it should be taught as a subject. So this is not only a change in technology, but rather a failure to understand the human needs. So what experts generally say in human-machine interface is that every time a human being makes an error, there is no need to uh, make a new modification or put in an engineering barrier, because the root cause is the human. So why not correct the human? So instead of correcting the human, we're trying to put another barrier in place, a new software, a new update, a new gadget. So that is basically overwhelming the human being. They have more things to do. So it is a very difficult balance. On one hand, you are increasing automation and the sophistication of automation. The main aim is to reduce the stress and the number of tasks on the pilot. But on the other hand, when things go wrong, then the pilot is really overwhelmed. So what I say is that the automation is like another person in the cockpit. So you have an autopilot. So autopilot is moody. So autopilot behaves differently at times and does not reset. So all those things. So you have to treat the automation like another human being. And in the future to come, you will have artificial intelligence, wherein the autopilot can have the capability of talking back. So we must be prepared for all those things. I don't think we are prepared for an automation to talk back that, look, you're not doing the right thing. The automation telling us. So now in ways, different ways, we are being told. But if somebody speaks back to us, so how do we take that? So that relationship, not only with humans, we had an issue, now we'll have issues with automation. So how does one deal with that? I don't know.
Time will tell.
So we'll have gadgets like I saw an advertisement of, I don't know which company, wherein this person has trained all the gadgets in his house, voice controlled, and he locks the door, goes to a dentist. He has a tooth extraction. Now he cannot speak that
The
well
voice
when he comes back.
recognition is not.
Yeah, the voice recognition doesn't let him in. It's raining.
Yeah, he's
So
locked
what
out in the
happens?
storm.
So have we thought about all eventualities if the artificial intelligence goes rogue? So what happens, like it happens in the movies? So it may be the future may be like that.
Yeah, who's to tell? And Amit, in your opinion, what is the most important personality trait someone would need to have to work or to be successful as a pilot or in aviation?
For a pilot, there are two things. One is the attitude, the other thing is the motivation.
Could you expand on those?
So, especially for a pilot, attitude, there are a number of attitudes which you should not have. But one for taking a decision should be that you should not be adamant. You can take a decision. If things change, then you can always reconsider your decision and change it. Take it's made, it's cast. That is difficult for a lot to reconsider. So in that, ego comes in, and other things also, because a lot of time the environment changes. So environment changes. There are other people who may take or give in more inputs. You may get in more inputs, because of which you may think that my previous decision may not be as good in the current circumstance. So I might have to change my decision. So it is a rapidly progressing flight. Along with it, you have to keep on updating yourself. So that is one thing every pilot must have, because a lot of the incident reports or safety reports I've read, so people have got tunnel vision, got stuck, or they have been adamant. So that flexibility needs to be there. And secondly is the motivation. Especially in training, we say the performance of a person is a factor of your resources, your ability, and motivation. If you have average resources and average ability, highly motivated, you can still do better. But if your motivation of the trainer or the trainee is zero, even if you have the best resources and ability, it will end up means an average product. So people who are highly motivated, that's why they can reach anywhere. That is the attitude, positive attitude.
Yeah, I guess that would be
the
true.
Outlook and the attitude.
Yeah, that would be true for anybody,
that is there
anywhere.
in any field.
True that.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'll ask the listeners, anybody present here would like to ask any questions of Amit.
Have a discussion.
Yeah, we can have a discussion.
Hi, sir. I have a question actually about the motivation part.
Please go ahead.
Because a lot of times, especially in our field, ever since I have joined the field, there have been lots of ups and downs in terms of job availability, and in terms of the competition in the market, it has increased a lot. So we were lucky enough that we just many of my batchmates, they had to wait a long time to get a job. But again, that same thing, that wait for job, and the high prices, the prices have been going up. And at this time, I get a lot of new entrants in the field who are lacking on the front of motivation. So how do I do my best to keep them motivated and keep them persevere in the field, that okay, you have to just keep working and keep. But what could be the best strategies to keep the students motivated, treat the new entrants who are just entering and who have not gotten their footing yet, but they are just beginning their journey? How to keep them motivated?
So that question ideally is for Amita.
Because she says that because I'm practicing life coach, leadership and executive coach. So that's why he's throwing the ball to me. I feel, usually whenever somebody who wants to follow something but is demotivated, I guess the thing is, you need to be more inspired than motivated. Motivation tends to be coming from external sources, and they could probably see somebody who's working like you and feel motivated for a short while, see you in uniforms, probably think that you're earning X amount, traveling to these places, and but it's the intrinsic motivation part, which is more inspiration. Why is it that that person wants to be a pilot? There will be ups and downs in life, even if you become a pilot, your lifeline is not going to be flat. It will go up and down, right? We just spoke about with Iqbal and Amit about if I had known now, if I had known then what I know now. So things will happen in life. This is uh, a moment life is thrown at you. Strengthen your muscle.
In
Use
aviation,
this. Yeah. Every struggle and opportunity, there's a gift there. If you can create a perspective where you can look at it as a gift, it helps, no matter what aspect of life. Yeah, Amit, you were
Because
saying.
yeah,
what I was saying is that in aviation, per se, we don't have many mentors whom we need to, like in other fields, there is a system of mentorship. So, like you may be mentoring a person or talking. So, anyone who has no kind of guidance automatically becomes demotivated. And secondly, if you are not able to achieve your targets or set your targets and achieve them, then also you'll get demotivated. So you need to have these long-term, short-term. These are all easier to say things, but at least things should be working out for you. Job is one thing which everybody needs, but not everybody can get a job. We have so many unemployed CPL holders. But there has to be a common platform wherein you connect. Everybody sitting alone or idle will automatically get demotivated. So in India, especially, aviation is not institutionalized. We do not have institutions. We have IGRUA, but IGRUA location is quite remote. So we need to have more forums wherein people participate. So like forums, as in discussion groups or formal forums. So we need to know what's happening in others' lives or how are other professions faring. So right now, everything is going on WhatsApp. So WhatsApp only information is flowing. That is unverified. So that is why to make institutions, one of the purpose of institutions is to provide support. So that is the job of the alumni, which you are doing. So the job of IGRUA is not just to train pilots, but to mentor pilots also, to make better pilots and to motivate. So that is the job of IGRUA. So as an institution, they need to do much more in collaboration. So one of the purpose of this Advaita Katha is basically to initiate discussion, to get people together to talk about. So unless you talk about what's in your mind and what's going on, so you will be kind of isolated. So not only online, but offline also, in-person discussions. And unless you update your knowledge, read, so that are the ways you get motivated yourself. So how do you know that you are better than the other person? If a vacancy arises for 100 people, there'll be 10,000 people applying. So there is no sense of, there is no entitlement to anything. There is always some sort of a competition which is healthy. Like in training, there is, or in games. So what we do in training is something called gamification. We put the content of training in the form of games or use the principles of games. Games is basically intrinsic motivation. So we are competing with somebody else in terms of playing the game, the level of games, or scoring the points. So that is how we are keeping ourselves motivated. So that is the principle of gamification. So on similar lines, unless we have such forums or participate en masse in such forums, so things are not going to be very good, or rather our foundation is going to be very shaky. That's what I want to say.
Sir, you must have read that proposal. I keep communicating with you that the exact same thing which you said. I have been trying to get IGROA and some people on board. In fact, IGROA management on board on the same proposal to communicate more with alumni. Actually, as of now, obviously, what I do believe is that there is a lack of institutionalization in aviation. Apart from IGROA, even in IGROA, people are not as connected as they used to be. So I think you must have read. I sent you that proposal for IGROA a couple of times. So in November, I'm again going to go to IGROA. I'm going to talk to the director about it, and probably we are going to actually get maybe a sort of alumni association together where everyone could connect with all the alumni at different stages, and all those they could connect with the current ones and the recent ones who are still out there going through their initial training and preparation for airlines. So that actually is one of the ideas of getting that group together and maybe help IGROA in becoming more institutionalized and more on the academic side, more polished as compared to what it is right now.
Yeah, like before, during Captain Dower's days, we had people from Indian Airlines or Air India coming in.
Yes.
So they used to come in for short stays. So that was kind of motivating. We actually saw people who were flying the big jets, which was everybody's dream. So this has to be done on a larger scale from the ministry or somewhere.
Yes.
Like in medicine, the doctors, they go to remote places, rural areas, and serve. So while at Indigo, I had made a proposal that with Gondia, that there should be some sort of a rotation, that the pilots flying in Indigo should go and be the instructors there in Gondia for a certain time before becoming a trainer in the airline. So that we kind of pass on the SOPs and the procedures, the culture which is there in the airline, so that the person who is there in the flying school gains from it and then gets motivated that a person who is actually flying is teaching me. And it then goes back to the airline because their burden is reduced on training. They're getting a superior product which is already trained, which was the idea of IGROA.
Yes, sir.
That was the main idea.
Absolutely correct.
That thing is lost. So that needs to be revived. So there has to be the flying schools, the standards have to be raised so that people who go there are, they kind of interact with the real pilots who they want to be. So that kind of triggers the whole process.
Thanks. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Amit. Thanks, Vikash.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Any questions for Amit? If not, then we'll call it a day for today's chat. Thank you so much for participating, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. We already have a guest lined up. We'll have a next session on 20th of October, 6 p.m. That will be a Thursday. And there's a senior Air Force personnel who joined civil aviation post his stint in Air Force who will be joining us for a chat. So look forward to having you there that day. Thank you so much, Amit. Thanks, Iqbal.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Vikash.
Thank you, everybody.
Gaurav, Weber, and Arkanko. Thank you so much for
Bye-bye.
joining in.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.